Well, hello, Jane. It's great to see your smiling face.
Sherron, it is awful good to see yours. Introduce yourself to our audience, although I doubt anyone needs to know who you are because they already know.
Well, I know Jane because we are fellow whistleblowers. I'm better known as the Enron whistleblower, and I've had the privilege of working and knowing Jane for I think, well over a decade. We both share a passion for supporting the cause of the whistleblower. And today we're kind of flipping the script a little bit. Jane, you're usually running this podcast, asking questions, but you've got an announcement that you want to make, and I'm going to be asking you some questions about that announcement.
Yes, you are. This is Sherron Watkins, Enron whistleblower, a whistleblower extraordinaire. I am so excited to be able to talk to you. This is a very interesting situation where the script is being flipped, but with the help of a fearless whistleblower and others like you, I am announcing our campaign to get President Biden to make National Whistleblower Day permanent, Sherron. It's past time that President Biden recognized whistleblowers, their contributions, and their incredible role in keeping our nation's democracy healthy. You know better than anyone about the trials and tribulations that whistleblowers endure just to do the right thing. What we want is recognition and greater awareness. But Sherron, even with more recognition, we want to see some tangible change come out of this. Because as long as the culture around blowing the whistle remains what it is, then truth tellers and those who might want to speak out will be discouraged from doing so. This is about changing the culture, Sherron, so that whistleblowers are celebrated, not denigrated. That is why we are asking for an executive order with real teeth that will require every federal agency to make its employees aware of their rights to blow the whistle, in addition to highlighting the whistleblowers like you, Sherron, who have bravely come forward in the past. I believe that if the issues around blowing the whistle are elevated in our public discourse and they are celebrated by our highest level of government, then people will be less afraid to do the right thing. I think it's important that we announce this campaign today because it is the 160th anniversary of when Abraham Lincoln signed the False Claims Act of 1863, something you know a lot about. The False Claims Act remains to this day one of the most important laws protecting whistleblowers that exist anywhere in our statutes. I think it's important, Sherron, to remember the visionary leaders in our history like Abraham Lincoln, who stood up for whistleblower protections. What so many people don't realize is that whistleblower rights are deeply embedded in this country's DNA. Far before Lincoln, the first whistleblower law was passed by the Continental Congress in 1778 in the middle of the American Revolution. These issues are not new, Sherron, but we need our current generation of leadership to carry their legacy forward and ensure we are making progress. And I think you should know, Sherron, that last year, President Biden came out and noted that whistleblowers are key for national security in our fight against anti-corruption, something you know about in that Enron case. I'm very excited to have you with us today, Sherron, because you are a notable whistleblower. So proud to have you on.
Well, thank you. Whistleblowing, it's been an odd label that I'm stuck with. In one hand, early on, Time Magazine put me and Colleen Raleigh of the FBI and Cynthia Cooper of WorldCom on their cover as Persons of the Year.
Yes.
And labeled us the whistleblowers. Well, I had friends say, "Oh, don't let them call you that. That's rat fink, snitch. You were a loyal employee reporting to the CEO, trying to get the captain of the Titanic to recognize that we'd hit an iceberg, that we'd cooked our books, needed to come clean. Don't let them call you a whistleblower. And then on the other hand, I had people say, how dare you call yourself a whistleblower? You didn't go outside of the company. So it's a very toxic label. And I was called or subpoenaed to testify in front of Congress because the demise of Enron was such a huge scandal and such a shocking surprise. And Congress had identified that Ken Lay, the CEO of Enron, looked into firing me, got some legal advice about discharging employees who raise accounting concerns. And so that really started a process of strengthening private sector whistleblower laws, where the Sarbanes-Oxley Act had anti-retaliation provisions put in. And then the most important act, in my opinion, was the Dodd-Frank Financial Act of 2010 that put in wonderful whistleblower protection laws, that it would be handled by the Office of the SEC, and it would really protect the identity of the whistleblower, keeping them anonymous, and also provided a 10 to 30% reward for information that led to an SEC sanction and fine. And that has been a game changer for stopping corruption, stopping scandal. And it's now been expanded into other arenas. But as you mentioned, we still lack a lot of protection for government employees, for public sector employees. But the laws are getting much better in the private sector. But as you mentioned, I have attended the National Whistleblower Day celebration and recognition in DC for a number of years. And it's always heartbreaking to hear whistleblower stories that haven't gone very well, where they've been ostracized, their lives just squashed. And I think recognition on a grander scale of this National Whistleblower Day is very important. I really applaud the efforts to make this a federally recognized day to celebrate whistleblowers and get information out about how to blow the whistle.
Exactly. And it's interesting you noted, Sherron, about the fact of the title whistleblower. Somehow it connotates negative things. And we want to change that. Whether a person desires to be called a truth teller, a lamplighter, doesn't make any difference. What a whistleblower, lamplighter, truth teller does is speak truth to power. And so that's what we want celebrated, because whistleblowers change the world. They really do. Look what your actions accomplished. I mean, it's incredible what your whistleblowing accomplished in the world. You changed the financial world. So this is why we need a celebration of whistleblowers and this vindication and justice. You're right. I've talked to so many, Sherron, whose lives have been destroyed, who have suffered retaliation, which you do. You suffer retaliation to this day. And it's wrong. It's wrong.
Well, and I look at it too on how do we have a healthy society? And, unfortunately, people sometimes fear the powerful. And speaking truth to power can crush a whistleblower, yet it remains a good check and balance against abuse of power. So the beauty of the Dodd-Frank whistleblower program, some of the things that are coming out in the commodities market and anti-money laundering, the False Claims Act, as you mentioned, which has been around since Abraham Lincoln made it law. These things help identify wrongdoers and stop them, hopefully, before it is organization ending. Like with Enron, my warnings were too little too late. And I think the reason we still look at Enron or study it is because we want to prevent the next Enron. We want to prevent a $60 billion company from going bankrupt and wiping out all the shareholder investments, wiping out employees' lives. And so the nice thing about a great whistleblower program is you catch the wrongdoing when it's at the baby steps, when really it's kind of like a gateway drug, and we have a chance to get the organization into rehab and have it get on the straight and narrow path and do things the right way and remain alive. It's leveling the playing field. But it is surprising to me. I speak all around the globe about Enron and whistleblowing. There's not a lot of public knowledge available about the tools that the Dodd-Frank whistleblower program has started at the SEC, or the lawyers that are there to support whistleblowers. I mean, I think, isn't that part of why you think it's important that National Whistleblower Day be permanently recognized?
That's exactly right, Sherron. It's critically important, especially now with the anti-corruption campaign that's being heralded by the President of the United States. And this is why we are making our campaign run by whistleblowers, yourself, Fred Whitehurst, Aaron Westrick, and a host of other passionate whistleblowers in our whistleblowing community. This is why they are involved in this campaign, just for those reasons you stated. It's critically important. And this is a whistleblower-led movement initiative. So I'm really looking forward to working with you, to having this happen, and to accomplish this, because it will change the world. And you're right about the federal employees. They desperately need this initiative. They need to be recognized, federal whistleblowers. I just talked to two the other day on my podcast, Sherron, who blew the whistle on a $550 million fraud in Social Security. Unfortunately, they blew it after it happened, just like you said. And if they had maybe had the backing of something like this National Whistleblower Day, it would have gone a lot better than citizens of this great country losing. They figure it's close to $1 billion and hasn't even made a blimp on the radar. So this is critically important that we get recognized, this recognition and justice under a National Whistleblower Day, making it permanent.
So making it permanent, raising the awareness of whistleblowing, I mean, really isn't the goal also to raise awareness of how to get resources to whistleblowers so that wrongdoing is discovered in time to do something about it when the organization is still healthy, maybe even prevent things like you just mentioned, the loss of funds within the Social Security program. We want to catch things when there's time to rectify it, not after the organization just blows itself up.
Exactly, Sherron, exactly. And these two whistleblowers who blew the whistle on Social Security, their lives are ruined. They've lost their jobs. They led a 10-year fight and have lost everything. And it's totally unfair and unnecessary. We're losing, due to corruption, millions and millions of dollars. It's time that whistleblowers are honored. It's time that they receive justice, and it's time to change the history of this country in terms of how they view whistleblowers. This is critically important.
I do think it's changed a lot. In the last 20 years, I think the viewpoint of blowing the whistle and whistleblowing is being seen in a much better light. The inspector generals within the government, so much has come out where brave whistleblowers reported on wrongdoing within the government, within certain organizations. So I think it is getting better.
It has changed, but we have a long way to go, Sherron, a long way to go. And we as whistleblowers can get this done. And it's time to get it done today, right now. We announced this initiative, and we are going to have whistleblowers behind us. It's led by whistleblowers, and we are going to get the president to sign this initiative honoring whistleblowers on a permanent whistleblower day, which will be recognized in federal agencies all through the government.
So how do you make this happen? How does it gain steam? How does it, walk me through how I and others can get this done.
Sherron, we're asking everyone who wants to help make this this happen to start by signing our petition, which can be found at whistleblowersblog.org/NWD. From there, we will be asking everyone to write letters and make phone calls to their members of Congress, the president, and the vice president. All of this will be super easy to do from our website, a whistleblower website, which includes pre-drafted letters that you can tweak to your own personal story. Sherron, you have quite the story, or simply stick to the template. We will make all of this abundantly clear on the website, which you can also find by going to Whistleblower Network News, their homepage, and navigating to the National Whistleblower Day tab. If any of that is giving you trouble, you can reach out directly to our campaign coordinator, Max Cohn, at max.cohn@whistleblowernews.com. Again, max.cohn@whistleblowernews.com. This is a total campaign generated for and by whistleblowers, Sherron, but we do have the support of Whistleblower Network News and the National Whistleblower Center.
Well, that sounds good, and it sounds easy to do. Just so our listeners and viewers understand, if it becomes a federally permanent day, nationally recognized by the president, what benefits, what does that do for information sharing, for recognition, for knowledge of ways to blow the whistle? What are the benefits to this being recognized as a federally National Whistleblower Day?
Excellent question, Sherron. And it elevates whistleblowers. It elevates whistleblowing. Federal agencies will have to post information concerning whistleblowing. Agencies will have to be aware of the consequences of retaliating against whistleblowers. It is extremely important that we elevate and give justice to whistleblowers. And that's really what this campaign is all about. We're bringing it into a legal framework, which will make our lives a lot easier than they were 10 or 20, even 30 years ago, Sherron.
Yeah, well, I want to temper what you're saying a little bit. I do think it will help whistleblowers find fellow warriors in the field, so to speak. That they can share their emotional burdens, share their experience. I do want to recognize that in far too many cases, a whistleblower's never going to see justice. So I don't think they're going to find justice, only because they are speaking truth to power, and the powerful quite often will get a slap on the wrist or a sanction or a fine. And of course, they're powerful. They stay in power. And the whistleblower still is ostracized, still has a black mark next to their name, where they're just not as employable as they once were. So I don't think they will. We can't promise justice, but I think we can promise a shared sense of the toll that it has taken on them, and a recognition of the difficulties that their path took for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And exactly, you're exactly right. And I see justice in a validation. There's justice in the validation of being a whistleblower. It will no longer be seen as something untoward, as something wrong. It will be a validation that you're doing the right thing for the right reason, and you should be celebrated for that. And that's the kind of justice I'm talking about. The recognition that what you're doing is correct, it is not wrong, and you don't deserve retaliation. You don't deserve to be ostracized. You don't deserve to lose your job. It's critically important. That's why this is critically important, Sherron. We want to elevate the whistleblower up to a standard where they're recognized and celebrated.
Yes. Well, and also just to almost find a support network, because it can really wear on someone
Yes.
when the manipulator of truth, the oppressor, stays in power and keeps going, and their lives have been upended. There's really no changing that, but there at least a feeling of when they talk to other whistleblowers, when they share their experiences, there's validation in that shared experience.
Exactly. And that is one thing I found, Sherron, with our podcast, is the fact that just allowing whistleblowers, giving them a voice, and then an entree into the whistleblower community where they find support and recognition and validation is so important. And that's what we're asking the government for: validation, recognition, acceptance.
Yes. Well, and certainly, I have such a different story. I think I'm one of the very few whistleblowers, to end up on the cover of Time magazine, to still be speaking about my story. And also, though, I saw real justice where the company did collapse, implode in a wave of accounting scandals, like I'd warned. There are almost 24 Enron executives that are felons, and a dozen did prison time. Just Arthur Andersen, the public accounting firm, is no longer in existence, partly because of the flawed audits at Enron. I saw so much justice that mentally, I saw accountability.
Yes.
And so that validated my concerns, validated my actions. However, in my 20 years of speaking around the globe, I've met so many whistleblowers that will never get that kind of accountability and justice and validation, because the organization that I reported on just didn't, maybe, as I mentioned before, got a slap on the wrist, had to pay a fine. Now, potentially that organization did get closer towards better behavior, but the life of that whistleblower is wrecked.
Yes.
And that is really the tragedy in all of this. And so the recognition, permanently recognizing National Whistleblower Day and the price that pays, I think that helps them in their suffering, because really they will suffer. I mean, for me, yes, I do have friendships that are over. I do have situations that are awkward because the label is just toxic, but I can't complain. Also, thank goodness I'm an introvert and I like rejuvenating myself with time alone. But sort of the career you've chosen, the long-term friendships that you've made, those things are over, and that comes with some sorrow and a cost.
Yes.
And really what you're talking about with making National Whistleblower Day permanent is more of an avenue where whistleblowers can come together, be celebrated at certain events, and just be able to discuss and share their hardship stories in a way that makes them walk away feeling like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not out of my mind. The same worries, the same concerns I felt, the same ostracization that I felt is felt by all these other fellow whistleblowers. And somehow a burden is lifted. And that's really the goal you want there.
That's exactly right, Sherron. And we no longer want to be, as Senator Grassley said, the skunk at the picnic. Forget that. That is in the historical past. We are not going to be the skunk at the picnic anymore. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's the president signing an official document recognizing the official day. It's not just a temporary Band-Aid fix. No, this is permanent. It's got the force of the president of the United States behind it, and it will give teeth. It will have real teeth that will require every federal agency to make its employees aware of their rights to blow the whistle in addition to highlighting the whistleblowers who have bravely come forward in the past. It would not hurt my heart for the FBI to have pictures of whistleblowers instead of throwing darts that they did 20 years ago when I left that agency. They threw darts at my picture in the FBI space. Now we'll have pictures of whistleblowers that are heralded as heroes and warriors. And that's important. That's part, Sherron, of changing the culture. And it elevates it into a public discourse. We're celebrated in the highest level of government, and that will make people less afraid to come forward.
Okay. Because right now it's just a temporary.
It's temporary. That's right. This would have the president recognizing whistleblowers, their contributions, and their incredible role in keeping the nation's democracy healthy. You know better than anyone else about the trials and tribulations that we have to endure just to do the right thing. Well, let's change the culture, and let's not make that such a unhealthy and unproductive road to take, the journey of a whistleblower.
You know, so we're really wanting something that probably has a little more teeth than just celebrating whistleblowers. You know, you're wanting federal agencies to actually discuss it or have training around it. I'm just asking.
Correct.
You know,
nope, you're right on. You're spot on, Sherron. You're absolutely spot on. And whistleblowers like you, prominent whistleblowers, whistleblowers whose names have never been heard, are going to gather behind this campaign because it's changing the culture. It's going to change the agencies because the executive order will have real teeth that will require these agencies to make employees aware of their rights, to make them aware of the fact that whistleblowers have done a good thing.
So this would be, we want President Biden to make this a federal commemorative holiday to celebrate whistleblowers, to promote whistleblowing and knowledge of the avenues you can take. So,
exactly. And training.
So we could, and this will all be on the whistleblowerblog.org/NWD, National Whistleblower Day.
Exactly. And again, I'm going to tell you, Sherron, it's by whistleblowers, for whistleblowers. It is, you know, something that we are going to bring about because it's important for the whistleblower community to step forward and show that we are not skunks at the picnic, that we have brought about we have changed the world. You changed it in the financial aspect. Whistleblowers are changing federal agencies every day. It's time to honor those whistleblowers, which can be done through that whistleblowers.org/NWD. And a Marist poll, Sherron, showed that 86% of Americans support whistleblowers. It's about time we give whistleblowers their due.
Yes.
And this campaign is going to do it.
Well, and there's loads of other federally recognized days, you know, so when you really look at the history, you know, the reason it's July 30th is because of the whistleblowing that took place in, you know, 1776, you know, the founding of our country. So it's important that it's that day because that harkens back to
exactly,
you know, a very well-known historical whistleblowing case when the country was being founded.
Exactly. We have history on our side. We have the American public on our side. We have all of the right things. So it's time for us to all stand up and say, let's bring this about. Let's get an executive order honoring whistleblowers and what they have accomplished. People like you, Sherron.
Well, mainly, I think it's, you know, if it's a nationally recognized day, you know, it does become something that in federal offices, it's commemorated and discussed and will certainly help boost whistleblowing and within the federal organizations.
Right. We're tired of lip service, Sherron. We're tired of lip service. Give us our due. Give us our due. Every whistleblower can point to something that their whistleblower has changed. In my case, we've had policy changes in the FBI. They're never going to tell you that these changes came about because Special Agent Jane Turner blew the whistle on malfeasance and corruption in the FBI. Every whistleblower has a story. Every whistleblower has initiated really some kind of change. It's time to recognize whistleblowers for the changes they have brought about, for changing the world and this country. And it's in our history. It's in our genes. Whistleblowers. Let's bring the public recognition to the fore. Let's give us what
I
we're
also
doing.
like the fact, though, like National Day of Prayer,
Mm-hmm.
we are urging everyone to pray on that day. Cesar Chavez Day, we're celebrating that man, but we're also urging people to get involved in community outreach, helping improve the lot of your fellow citizens. So I
Right.
think it's not just looking at past whistleblowing, it's a day to say, this is an important check and balance in our system. It helps fight corruption, fight abuse of power. You want the national recognition because it brings about a day where organizations are encouraging people to understand the avenues that are available to them to report wrongdoing. So it's more of a proactive look forward, realize that you have this tool, you have this arrow in your quiver when you see wrongdoing. You don't have to just, have sleepless nights, worry about what you can do. When you have little power and someone with power is doing something wrong, these are the avenues you can use to report it. How do you find out about it? Well, at least we have one day a year where federal organizations are discussing it, talking about it, perhaps celebrating prior whistleblowers like yourself, Jane, but mainly saying these avenues are available to you.
Exactly.
It's an important check and balance, making our country work better.
Exactly, Sherron. You nailed it on the head. And we are going to flip the script, change the culture. Instead of having marginalized whistleblowers, which has been our history so far, we're going to honor them. We're going to give them respect that they're due. And it's time. It's time. We have changed history in a world of lies and corruption. It's time we celebrate the truth. It's time.
Okay, so letters to Congress, letters to your representatives. What else?
Whistleblowers.org/NWD. Go there. There's the template set up. You'll be hearing, we're going to try to contact as many whistleblowers as we can to get behind this campaign. If we haven't reached out to you, please contact us and we'll plug you in. We need everybody to get this across the line, Sherron. Absolutely everybody. Whistleblowers, advocates, politicians, whatever we can get on to sing on our page, we need.
Awesome. Well, Jane, thanks for spearheading this, and I look forward to working with you to make this happen.
Thank you, Sherron. It's an honor.
When you're all grown up, I think you'll find that it's just as hard.